I tell you, folks, welcome back to JKLIVE. What a refreshing conversation we're having. I mean, this is the kind of conversation we should be having every day. Or maybe it's because it's a new class, a new generation of leadership. 42-year-old Moses Kajwang from Homa Bay, 34-year-old Aaron Cheriot from Kericho. This gentleman, and you know, I'm older than you guys, so I've seen a lot more of this than you guys have.
Okay.
And I keep seeing the same leaders being recycled. And look, today for the first time, I feel a little bit of hope. For this. I don't know about people out there, but I do, because I see a new kind of leadership. So my question is, why do we keep recycling the same leaders? What is wrong with us?
Wow, that's a very difficult conversation to have. Because it requires that you be extremely honest, and being honest sometimes, especially 18 months to elections, is not the wisest of things to do. The thing is, we have set rules in this country that unfortunately many of us are forced to live by. That there are certain, many of the people who would have helped us move out of this situation are not willing. They'd rather be on WhatsApp and speak about how rotten our country is and compare us with the rest of the regions. They'd rather on their weekends, the middle class and the urbanites, instead of driving down to Kericho and educating many of our voters. You know, if I try to do it, people will say, what else would he have done? That's his job as a politician. But if a banker or a journalist or a lawyer took time and shared with people down in the village, instead of sitting up on Langata Road the entire Friday, Saturday and Sunday, drinking beer and enjoying a machoma, and train our people to understand what politics is about, then it will be something better. But unfortunately, this guy has to play his politics within the confines of the reasoning of his party leader. I, to a fairly good extent, have to live within the same confines of rules. I know for a fact many of the decisions this guy has made, and I know him. He's my friend outside of politics. We spend a lot of time together doing other things away from politics. I know his value system. But some of the controversial decisions say that we have had to make this year. You see the agony. You know, every time it comes to the time for voting, say in the Senate, you look at him, and maybe that was me last time, if I was to be honest, that there are certain decisions that I had to vote yes, which deep down I know this is wrong. But the stakes are so high, Jeff. You dare vote no and say, oh, you know, my conscience, then you done and dusted into the bins like people who have tried to carve that particular line. And that is a challenge of our politics. The fact that there are rules and the big boys have defined the space. You are only allowed to go up to this far. But when it gets to the point, you know, and you guys in the media don't help us. Every time there's a big national debate, you know, like I remember one of the most tragic recent headlines. Let me pick even a topic like debt. And this guy knows the intrigue about what happened recently when you were reviewing the debt ceiling. Everybody knows that we shouldn't have moved up that debt ceiling. We should have told government, get your act in order. We cannot allow you to mismanage our resources. Work on the budget deficit. But what was the national conversation within the media? It was reduced to it's a fight between Ruto and Uhuru. That Ruto's people are fighting his government. Therefore, because he's a politician and has to make practical decisions, chances are he will call the people in the Senate and in the National Assembly who caucus around him and say, hey, people, I don't want people saying that I'm fighting my boss. Please make sure you support his agenda. These guys will be told that because you're in the handshake season, even if Ferdinand Waititu is brought and it is confirmed beyond reasonable doubt that the county assembly didn't achieve the threshold, vote yes because we must support, quote unquote, the handshake. You know, those kind of little rules that you do not get the kind of support that is needed from all the quarters. It is expected that only Moses, as senator for Homa Bay, is supposed to pull on his weight and do certain magics. But the truth of the matter is that he plays his politics within a certain confine of reality. The same applies
I see hope.
Do you agree? Do you agree? Or?
I see hope. I see hope.
You see hope.
You know, this.
Do you have to wait 40 years for this for you?
The question you posed has been posed over many hundreds of years.
Sure.
In fact, even from the establishment of the Greek state, Plato, in his allegory of the cave, tells a story saying that we are like people in a cave, dark cave. We are used to darkness, and we believe that that is how the world should be. One day, someone gets an opportunity to go outside and see the light, and see life, and see humanity. When he comes back to announce to the people in the cave that, good news, guys, I've seen a different world, people think that he's run mad, that the light outside has made him go bonkers, and they kill him, and so no one wants to go out again. Raila gets out of the cave, he says, he goes out to the light, he comes back and says, I've been to the mountaintop, and I believe that there's a better future for this country. He's told, we mganga bwana, we wachana na maneno mingi, unatusumbua, unatuchanganya. People want to kill him because we are not seeing beyond the darkness that is in the cave. You know, Jeff, you've hosted Mukisa Kitui here. He's one of the guys, fine gentleman with a good track record. He wants to run for president. What are his chances of running for president or becoming president? Almost zero. And if he's watching, he should know. Because when he goes into that contest, he'll be asked, how many votes do you come with? From your Bukusu backyard, how many do you have? How many goes to Eta? How many goes to Lusaka? But the system that we are proposing in the BBI is a system that can enable a Mukisa Kitui to run this country. It is a system that can enable a technocrat, someone with clear ideas on how to formulate an industrial policy, which we don't have, and implement an industrial policy. Now, if Aden Duale was to run for prime minister, if it was a direct election, he will get a few votes from Garissa. And the votes from his constituency in Garissa is equal to the votes of my ward, called Gembe Ward in Homa Bay. He will go nowhere. But in a situation where you get first among equals, in a parliamentary system, it is possible for someone from northern Kenya, as long as is well endowed and is properly connected and good relations with his colleagues, to emerge as a prime minister to run to run the country. Kipchumba Murkomen, our mutual friend, and they are co-strikers in Bunge FC, but I beat them when it comes to running races. Kipchumba Murkomen wouldn't be elected if the leadership of majority in the Senate was a universal suffrage exercise. He would not get it. But because of a collegiate system, where we are now looking at people on individual merit, he makes it to be leader of majority. On our side, we make Mutula Kilonzo the whip. James Orengo, we make him the leader of minority. The system we are proposing is a system that will bring in some element of meritocracy in selection of the people who are going to run the state. And I do believe that that is a good starting point. We just need to be careful that we don't end up with the chaos that we are seeing in Italy. I think Italy is trying to form another government this week, or the chaos you are seeing in Israel. And it's going to be work in progress. You called this show the Feaster Amendment. I thought it was supposed to be the First Amendment.
Everybody was saying, was it first? Was it a typo?
Was it a typo?
So from this First Amendment, if you can re-architect our politics to ensure that for you to run this country, you do not need to come with a bag full of tribal votes. You just need to be elected into the national parliament, be it Senate or National Assembly, and from there, you get the first among equals to run the state.
And you honestly
I believe it will not be based on tribe.
Do you think someone like Mukisa Kitui can get elected? Let me ask you that. Can you think Mukisa can get elected?
In a parliamentary system?
In a parliamentary.
In a collegiate system?
Yes.
It's very possible.
No. I don't think it's possible.
Is.
And unless we educate our people to understand what really is a place and position of leadership in the country. And you need to connect to them the relationship between tribe as a tool of, political coalescing and agreeing vis-a-vis merit and giftings and the talents that people carry. Why do I say so? Assume BBI passes and we have the 600 double-decker parliament that these guys are proposing in BBI, and you have about that number in the National Assembly, say 300 or 400 are from one side of the divide, 200 are from the other. We will still fall victim of the kind of politics that Moses, you're saying, BBI answers. Because back at home in Homa Bay, back at home in Kericho, it will be expected that when it gets to the decision of voting who becomes the prime minister, that I look for who is our man, and that challenge still will exist. I cannot go back to our people, and this guy will not dare go back to Risinga Island. He will be stoned before even he boards the boat, and tell them that I looked at the array of people that we had for candidates, and I thought that Mukisa Kitui stood a chance as opposed to candidate XYZ who comes from his particular region. So it's a whole software exercise that we've got to do, and everybody must pull their weight. And this is a challenge, Jeff, that I want to give to Kenyans that are watching tonight. Let us not make the challenge of solving our political problems a challenge to the politicians on the political class only. Like I observed earlier, we, all of us, anybody that has gone to school that properly understand the positions of governance and what you need to do to make a country better must play their role. Begin with you guys in the media. Let us not always limit our news to what about Raila said today, that Ruto answered that. We need to begin to understand, say, for example, what is their position on our economy? Who has the best plan? What is our position of the 2 or the 3 or the 4 or the 5 guys that are running for president on foreign policy? Who has the strongest points about how do you answer the fact that our fortunes in the region are dwindling? Back in the day, we knew that we were the powerhouse of the East African community. That cannot be said. Everybody is balancing off their trade with us. We are being battered left, right, and center. Everybody is doing a deal with each other country, save for Kenya. So somebody must come up and say, this is my plan. This is how I'll get Uganda to be able to trade with us evenly, as opposed to what, the kind of things that are happening. Let's hear people speak about issues, but we do not get along. We do not get a lot of that conversation. When you read our newspapers, you listen to our talk shows, you watch TV, that is on the side of the media. The professionals as well.
It's just that people are not listening.
It's too far. It's too far off. It gets lost within the noise. The professionals as well. There is no difference when you go. By the way, and this is an unfortunate bit. If you go to, I don't know, probably Jeff now is part of what Moses will say. I'm referring to as the other class, but that's not what I mean.
You almost said the D word. You almost said the D word.
No. I cannot use it. But if you go,
I'm glad he's defected from that thing.
If you go, it has never been about the D word.
Genocidal agenda.
That's the agenda of these guys. They want to reduce our conversation. They are trivializing the hustler narrative, but don't worry about it. If you went to Tomboya,
yes.
There's a place called Archives. I don't know if you know that particular place. Every morning, people gather there. And these are ordinary citizens.
Yeah, by the statue.
By the statue.
Yes.
People who do the work in those Muindi shops.
Although I think they moved the statue, but they used to be there.
Yes. These guys moved it.
No, that was a shrine. That's Tomboya. And Kogalo, it's joined at the hip.
The Kogalo guys moved it.
Yes. Yeah.
Not to lose my point. You'll find guys who, well, not so, it's not your elite, well-to-do gentleman, and you listen to their conversation on politics. Sometimes back in the day, when I had the time, I'd most of the time go, because I love politics since I was young, and you listen. Most of their conversation will be around, if it's an Otieno, then we'll be pushing the ODM agenda. If it's our Fula, we'll be Fort Kenya. If it Akip Kirui like myself, it will be URP or whatever sort of it. You'd expect that if you cross the street and move upwards towards Lavington and listen to guys like you at a bar on a Saturday while they're watching football, that it will be different. But there's absolutely no difference. Same. Yet these guys, they've gone to different set of schools, they do different jobs. You'd expect that their appreciation of politics will be different. So unless we consciously make the decision as a people and say, this model hasn't worked for the last 60 years, where people imagine that so long as you keep on cheering the person that represents your closest chance at being closer to the approximation of power, and cheer somebody who has talent like, say, the gentleman that you mentioned, and you consciously go out of your way. Don't expect that it is me who's going to do it. I'm perhaps even the least most qualified and expected to do it, because it would be suicidal for him and I to try that kind of politics. But you, what are you losing? The banker that comes from Gashia, what does he lose if he goes back to his people and told them this nonsense that you're being told that this is our region, we need to be united as people? It's all hogwash. Let's look for somebody who has talent to move the country.
Jeff, you know, me, I'm an optimist. I believe this glass is half full, not half empty. So I talked about the arrangement around parliament and representation and the possibility that someone from a minority, because of his skills, because of his content, he can have the opportunity to rise to national leadership. And I'm still convinced that it is possible. I'm still convinced that the ethnic consideration will happen at the grassroots election, at the universal suffrage stage. But when we come to parliament, we will be looking at the person who can best move this country forward. That's number one at the national level. The second experiment that gives me hope is county governments. Because county governments, if properly implemented, we are going to have some success stories. Of course, out of the 47 counties, I've chaired the Public Accounts Committee, there's been a lot of reports of gloom and doom. But there are pockets of success. There are pockets of inspiration. There are many, and I don't even need to quote governors from my side of the divide. Places like Laikipia, we are hearing governors producing quarterly reports. We are seeing them engaging citizens in a way that is different from the ordinary approach of talking to people in funerals and going to church and converting it to a political rally. I see hope that devolution is going to breed and develop a new generation and class of leaders who shall provide us with direction. Devolution also, especially if you're talking about 35% of resources going to counties, will allow us to apply local solutions to local problems. I know that the first 8 years of devolution has been a mess. I think it's been synonymous with corruption. It's been synonymous with largesse. And there's something that our governors aspire to be like Nigerian governors.
Yes.
If you look at them, they want to be Oga. They want to be big man. Excellency.
Fiefdoms.
Yes. Fiefdoms.
Yes.
With small counties, the Tarakanithis and the Lamus of this world, and you want to be like a Nigerian governor with a state that produces oil. It's all hogwash. When there is sanity in devolution, we shall see the emergence of leaders. We shall see the emergence of village-based and county-based enterprises. And now that we are having a conversation about, comparative, even China, after the disgrace of the Cultural Revolution that followed the fall of communism, what did they do? They went back to the villages and went back to modernization of village enterprises, modernization of agriculture. And that's why, Aaron, it's not just about giving them the same tools that they've been using for ages. Modernize it. If the conversation was around modernization of the tools and factors of production, then I would not even be arguing with you. But if you want to leave it at a static level, that is going to be a mess. Kenyans are, to use a word which I'm not sure it's English, I don't know whether I would win Scrabble if I used it, Kenyans are woke.
Woke, yes.
Well, is it English or it's one of those Trump inventions? Kenyans are woke.
They're woke.
And I see that whenever I go to my county. People want to be involved in decisions relating to their lives. Public participation is a principle, a constitutional principle, and it needs to be a value in everything that we do. Kenyans have gotten to a point where they feel that they need to be consulted. They feel that they need to have a voice. And increasingly, Jeff, I have seen this. For certain positions, like positions of governor, and I'm seeing it's happening across the country, people are looking for governors who are going to deliver. Because they know that to be a governor, you are an executive. You execute. You bring development. To be a politician like Aaron and I, we just need to be fast talkers and smooth talkers. But they are looking for governors with substance. And I believe that in the next election, we are going to get a fresh breed of governors who will breathe a fresh lease of life into our politics. And in our next parliament, we are going to have some element of merit. And as long as Kenyans stay woke, and as long as Kenyans stay vigilant, and I like the way Kenyans are active on social media, it has become the tool for holding the leaders to account.
Yeah, but social media doesn't
progressively, I think my final point is, the one thing about human beings are aspirational. I remember when I was in the private world, whenever we used to do adverts for our products, we were told by the marketing gurus, you must associate your product with success. You must associate your product with progression. That if you use my product, even if it's just a cologne, you'll bug the next girl, things like those. It doesn't apply to this guy. He's a member of the Stingy Men Association of Kenya. He's a life member. Kenyans are aspirational. So,
he's a patron.
You cannot be selling prehistoric ideas to them. Jeff, I'm so confident that with part of what we have started with the BBI conversation, if we can just implement it, because passing it is easy, and I believe it will pass. If we can just get the right person to implement it, we are going to go somewhere.
Yeah, but hold on, Senator mentioned a new breed of governors. Where's Kidoro running again?
His county.
Thank you.
No, but Jeff, you see, this is a tragedy. This is a tragedy. Look at Nairobi.
And he's not just running. He's a front runner. Or probably the only runner. You know why? because where he comes from, you know, they vote by electoral college. There's only one vote that
I mean, he's a front runner for the UDA ticket for Homa Bay. But see, the tragedy is this. What is wrong with Nairobi? And you know, Aaron at some point brought a motion to Parliament, which I think should have been considered. When he brought it, he was Sonko went ad hominem and said that they wachana na hiyo kijana, we used to smoke stuff with him. But
by the way, before I forget that train of thought, you mentioned it earlier on, the Trumpism, the populism. What do you think of what happened to Sonko today? Did the law finally catch up with him? What are your thoughts?
I might have a problem with methods. I have problems with methods. But you see, there's been this argument about what is a modern state? Fine, we call ourselves a democracy. But are we a modern state? We are not, because decisions are made on very partial grounds. If you walk somewhere, Jeff, you'll be told to jump the queue because you're Jeff Koinange, the one and only. But a modern state is where Jeff Koinange and Moses Kajwang, whether I'm a hustler or whatever it is, we will be given accorded fair, equal treatment. So fine, for Sonko, the chicken have come home to roost. But of course, the method and timing, one would be reading some sinister moves. But, you know, you remember that song? Hakuna dhambi ndogo, mbele ya Mwenyezi Mungu, dhambi zote ni sawa. So if you're a criminal and you have a criminal record, the day the law catches with you, they say crime does not expire. So Sonko's crimes did not expire.
Jeff, I hold a slightly different view from what my colleague Senator Kajwang is arguing as or prescribing as a solution to many of the things that bedevil us as a country. I have a problem with this perennial obsession with another document, another committee, another constitutional commission. If we haven't learned for the last 50 or 60 years that any of these flowery, documented solutions that we try to bring to the country will never take us anywhere, then that is why we are proposing BBI as an answer to many of the problems that we face as a country. Let me give you an example. Corruption is something we struggle with so badly as a country, and it continues to fleece bakers a poor economy. It's the leading inhibitor why we cannot hit A levels in terms of growth and develop as a country. So what is a prescription that we thought about? If you think about it through the years, we used to have the KACC, or was it CASA? Then we thought about it and said, oh, let us think about something more independent. And we call it the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. What do we learn from countries that have been successful at these efforts? The countries who, when you follow Transparency International watch list on corruption, you realize they are almost at zero. You find, say, the Scandinavian nations, the Denmarks and the Swedens of this world, they do not have any of these flowery things that we create in our constitution. It's a culture, it's a normal everyday duty. If it's corruption, it's stopped by ordinary people. A police officer stops you dead in your tracks. If you jump the lights, you get your ticket and you get to pay. If you're building on a wrong part of a country, the municipal just sends you a letter and tells you, boss, you cannot be building it there, because people have learned that it doesn't have any single thing to do with another document, another constitutional amendment. It's a culture that we've got to inbuilt in our people until the day people realize that just wrong is wrong and right is right. It doesn't matter how many documents, how many constitutional commissions we create. That will be the end of this conversation.
But
therefore,
look at the US, 244 years old.
Yes.
How many times have they amended the Constitution?
30,
so many times.
Yes.
So many times.
Yeah.
yes.
It's a, you know, it's a devolving thing. It's a,
Yes. Yeah. But the kind of point of departure that I disagree with him is a motivation. And what are the things? You need to look at the things that they keep on amending. Most of them are generated by the public. It's about things that the country feels that, oh, for us to be a more stable democracy, what are the areas that we continue? But if you read the document that he's referring you to, it's a clever ploy. The only departure, if you read the BBI document, from what we have presently in our constitution, is that tinkering with the executive. Otherwise, the rest of the things can easily be achieved even with this present-day constitution. And therefore, that's a point of argument and the point of departure with Senator Moses Kajwang and the rest of the guys that think like him, that we think that if any time we can create another constitutional moment, perhaps maybe this time we'll get it right. No, Moses. Let us pause and let us tell each other the truth as leaders and say, lock ourselves in a room. By then, nothing is difficult. In any case, we have confessed that Kenya's decisions are made by a bunch of about 3 or 4 men only. Yeah. By then, there are no women. Perhaps if we had women on top of that table, things would have been different. Lock those 3 or 4 guys and tell them, what is it that they envision for Kenya?
You didn't comment about Sonko, by the way.
They're bosom buddies.
Let me, by the way, it's something that we really need to speak about because it's a very dangerous trend. Remember, for the last 2 or 3 years, many of us have been complaining about the use of state agencies to sort out political wars. This is a political war that Sonko is involved in.
But he's just admitted to all these things in public.
Of course, but at the end of the day, none of the things that he said are what he's in court for. Are completely different things. In fact, we've been told that now they are charging him under anti-terrorism laws and kind of things. And that's why they want to keep him for 30 days. So it has nothing to do with the things he's been saying. It's just about trying to squeeze the guy. What kind of nonsense is this? What kind of a country are we building where if I have a disagreement with you, Jeff, because you're occupant of a very high office in this republic, you can just call the police on me and be able to do the kind of things that they're doing to Mike Sonko. The same things have been done to many of our friends, many of the people that coalesce around the deputy.
What if you lack respect? What if in public you're saying the things that Sonko was saying?
Of course, it's unfortunate. I do not support that kind of politics. I would never say the kind of things Sonko says. But what's the difference between Sonko and the people that are doing the things that are doing to him? They are one and the same. They are cut of the same clothes. None of them is a respecter of our democracy and the beauty of our constitution.
Would you ever have done this thing against President Moi, let's say? Or President Kibaki?
Back in the day?
Yes.
Yeah, people used to abuse Kibaki.
Okay, Moi. Let's go back. Moi.
Even President Moi to a certain...
My friend.
Jeff,